Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have a fun photo episode for you folks this week. Definitely, this episode is kind of going to be a little bit laid back, a little chill. I really wanted to, and Mike really wanted to as well, talk about our experience with Gen Con.
Yeah, we're just dunking on you who didn't go at this point.
Yeah,
so.
pretty much just like serving up dishes for the fools that decided not to attend. And it's obviously a super like fun and amazing experience. I mean, when they really say it's the best 4 days in gaming, it's true. We have Origins here in Columbus, and like Origins is fine. Don't get me wrong. It is a sister convention to Gen Con, but if you have the option to go to one or the other, you should go to Gen Con at least once. If you are even if you're just into Magic, I would say just go to experience it. It's something that's pretty unique to be around so many like-minded people, even if you're just into Magic, it's likely that you'll go there and probably find something else that you enjoy doing. And I just also find it very I don't know who the person is that exists that's just like, I only do Magic and no other games whatsoever. Like, that's such a weird thing to kind of think about.
Yeah, it's really interesting. If you've ever been to Indianapolis, which is kind of a big place for Magic events, it is crazy how the whole city just sort of transforms during Gen Con, and how all of the local establishments and the restaurants, they really get in on this. I had a Strangest Things burger for the second year in a row, which was a burger with peanut butter and jelly on a waffle. And if you're like, oh, that sounds awful, you don't understand food. You just don't, because it was wonderful. I went to multiple restaurants dressed up because I cosplayed as an Adventure Zone character, Duck Newton, on Saturday, and people in cosplay just go out and where other places it might be well, I don't know, everyone embraces it. A number of it is cool to see the city sort of coalesce around this event. Cynically, of course they would. It makes them a lot of money. It's a huge deal. But it feels like once Gen Con is happening and you are there, it feels different. And now I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con, but I have to assume it's a very similar feeling to just like you said, all these like-minded people, everyone's here doing their thing, unabashedly being a fan of things. And I think if you're a person sitting here listening to a Magic podcast, then I think you understand what it means to be unabashedly a fan of a thing. So
yeah, for sure. And we obviously did play some Magic there, and that's like a good kickoff point, because that was our Thursday pretty much. We talked about this on the podcast, but they're having a convention tournament series at both Origins and Gen Con that had some pretty interesting things that you could qualify for by participating in them. I know that one of the tournaments was an actual MCQ, right?
Yes, the core sealed on Friday. It was
on Friday.
MCQ.
But the qualifier tournaments they had were to qualify you for a in-paper, real-life Legacy Cube draft, the Rochester draft, where they drafted literally
the entire cube,
entire Legacy Cube, and the big part is you got to keep whatever you drafted, which is a big deal for multiple different reasons. There's obviously a lot of high dollar value cards, and so we participated in the modern the qualifier that was held at 7:00 at night. The one thing to take away about Magic is you could literally go there and just play Magic all hours.
Yeah, for 72 straight hours.
Theoretically, if you really wanted to, I would suggest you go take a shower, sleep, come back, and continue to play Magic. But so we did that and had kind of similar experiences, unfortunately, which were not fantastic. I know that you decided to play Blue-White Control.
I did.
And it was this just sort of the fairly stock list.
Yeah, I just took a couple of pieces from some of the 7-3 and 8-2 Mythic Championship lists and smashed them together with Shaheen Sarani's list, because I really liked his from the Team Open and the PT. So.
Yeah. And did you go?
I went 2-2.
2-2.
I beat Black Green. I lost to Jund. I lost to Gruul Phoenix, and I beat White Red Prison. So
gotcha.
So I got to ultimate my first ever Jace the Mind Sculptor in Constructed.
Nice.
So that was cool.
I mean, that sounds pretty cool. I played Mono Red Phoenix, and because I just wanted to, like I had blue white control as well, but I wanted to play something a little bit more like proactive. And I have played like Is It Phoenix before, and like I understood a little bit of like being able to play with the Phoenix, but I know that Mono Red is kind of a different beast almost entirely. So I got some tips from Mike on how to play it, and tried to learn the deck. I went X in 3, so I won my first round against Copycat, but lost to Jund and lost to what were they playing? I can't remember. I know that I also lost to Dredge in a bit of a, I mean like just not a nail biter. I don't know. Probably should have just like aggressively mulliganed more, potentially to find like ley lines to start off the game. But it's hard to like decide to be like, well, I'm kind of a deck that needs a lot of things and be like, oh, but I'm going to mull to 5 and like I'm going to have a key sideboard card, but am I going to have enough momentum to actually win the game if I decide to do this? So that was tough. I wish I could remember the third deck that I played against, but definitely can't.
I mean, the qualifiers, not just the one we played in, were dominated by Jund and Blue White.
Yeah.
Hogak was there, don't get me wrong,
Right.
but just a cursory glance at the tables, it was a lot of Jund and Blue White, a lot of decks trying to use some powerful sideboard strategies and powerful cards to negate the Hogak decks. So.
Right.
But yeah, that was fun.
I enjoyed learning my deck and playing it, and like there were some interesting like things I got to do, some interactions that I got to take advantage of. Like Lava Dart is a messed up magic card a little bit. And so I'm glad that I have the deck, and we'll probably continue to play it, and then like Mono Red Prowess, because they're similar in at least deck construction. So definitely going to be experimenting with those, I think, a little bit, just to have something fun and like proactive to play in the format that will hopefully continue to be good. It depends on a lot of different factors, but it's just a proactive strategy, and that's like a good place to start in Modern in the first place.
Yeah, it'll definitely depend on like that deck as a deck that we're definitely gonna keep an eye on the August 26th ban and restricted announcement. Because Faithless Looting, especially the Phoenix version of it, Mono Prowess maybe not as much, but the Phoenix version of it definitely wants looting to make it go. So
yeah, Prowess could probably still
could exist.
Tough it out. Yeah.
But we'll see from there. So the only thing I will say about that series is cool, and I'm glad that Pastimes put that together. Should also point out that last year we did an interview with the creator of the Transformers TCG.
Yeah, and
they had almost as large of a hall presence as Magic did.
Oh, for sure.
Had a ton of events going on. I think it was interesting because our conversation last year, and I'm going to forget who the name of that WotC employee, and I apologize because he deserves obviously lots of credit and sat down with us.
Right,
but. I think it's kind of interesting. He didn't really envision a lot of like competitive play for the game, and it seems to be thriving on it. Like there were a ton of people playing Transformers. They had free mini masters every morning for Magic. And they had a free mini masters for Transformers too, and they were pulling similar folks. So numbers wise, so that's pretty interesting.
I think like when you have a pretty like we play Transformers, the game system is good.
Yeah, it's good. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of pick up and learn, and you have such an easy slam dunk IP associated with it, because like Transformers, like even after like bad Michael Bay movies, is still like super popular and is almost sort of something that's universal, and like I don't want to be like bombastic and say like timeless. But it feels
came out in the 80s. I don't even call it timeless yet.
No, but it's still like it still manages to capture like kids. Yeah, it'd be interesting to kids.
It checks a lot of boxes. We think of like what appeals to like just a kid. Like,
like cars.
Yeah, cars.
Kids love cars.
Kids like cars. Kids like robots. Kids like cars will become robots.
Correct. Kids like cartoons.
Yeah, and that's true. And if I will say, and we said this last time, the art style in that game continues to be like, yes, they have this like slam dunk IP, but they do a good job, especially with their oversized characters who make up your Transformer teams, doing such a good job of making those look awesome. And the promo series that I know that a friend of ours picked up out
Yeah.
there, where they went back to the sort of 80s cartoon style for it.
Yes, so it looks very sharp.
Mm.
I was tempted, but I knew it was just going to be something that existed on a shelf for
Yeah,
me.
we have friends who have it, so that's good.
Right.
But I mean, it's fun. It was cool. So, but I will say, price on some of that stuff was a little expensive, and I think that caused
Right.
Morgan and I to use our dollars in other ways, as opposed to just playing. Because last year, I think I played in 4 of those qualifiers, the birthday qualifiers.
Yeah.
And I had a good time doing it. But this year, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use my time a little bit differently. So,
Yeah.
but it was still. I mean, I'm glad to have it. It's a cool series.
Yeah, and I wanted to continue to do stuff like that. I want, like, it's important to note that WotC did, much like last year, have a very definite presence. We know that we got a lot of Commander 2019 spoilers over the card reveals over the course of the weekend, which is very exciting to be there and be a part of that sort of special release, because you would you'd have to you feel like you'd have to be like a PAX or something, like a PAX panel or something like that, and it felt like we were starting to get some of that flavor into our thing, which is good, and like that's definitely influenced by Gen Con streaming more and doing a lot more like things on Twitch, which I think does help influence some of the decisions that WotC makes when they are trying to do these big reveals.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. That's a huge part of it. I think also like the size of Gen Con, especially when it hits 50th. There was a ballooning in size there, and I know a lot of people in the Midwest felt like WotC sort of forgot again about Origins and Gen Con for a long time.
Yeah,
but I think when you look at like the person who was the leader of the show this whole weekend at Gen Con was Gavin Verhey. Like he was the person who was on top of all these things, and he said this is his 10th Gen Con. You know what I mean? So not only that, you have like decision makers now at WotC who are telling them, like, hey, we should have a presence here. This is important. This is a thing that people are excited about. They want to go to. They want to be at. So the streaming is certainly important with that. But I also think that the passionate people who are now working for WotC may have more firsthand experience with the Gen Con that drives them that direction.
Yeah. So. And the total number of attendees, I think, let's see, since
this is just good audio.
70,000 unique attendees.
That's pretty good,
I think, for this year, and then 538 exhibiting companies. It's just they keep breaking records. They this is something that they have been doing since probably the 50th anniversary. Is like the attendance keeps getting higher and higher and higher, and whether that be attendance and people actually attending or vendors, ticketed events, things like that. There's definitely a increasing drive for this kind of thing to exist.
And it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because as it gets bigger, you're attracting more avenues. You know what I mean? Like some maybe non-traditional avenues for things like Gen Con. We went to a Cards Against Humanity live show.
Yeah.
And they've always had at least some sort of presence at Gen Con, but they've made their presence bigger. They don't really mesh with some of the when you look at like Cards Against Humanity games like that, they're not really meshing the same play style or anything as like Euro games, which obviously has a huge piece there.
Right.
But the con keeps getting bigger and bigger, so you can have all these things sort of pieced together. I mean, we watched that live show in a church a few miles from like the actual convention center, which is just buck wild. I'll be honest. It was an average show. Sorry, Cards Against Humanity. I love you as a company. Average show, but the whole concept of it was buck wild. So
definitely agree. So as far as Magic goes, like there's always a ton of vendors. It's a great place to go. Like my favorite thing to do is to like go there and have a have a goal, like have a fun thing to do as far as shopping is concerned. So like I needed a few cards for Mono Red Phoenix. So I was like, cool, I'm not going to worry about picking them up here in Columbus. I'm going to go and shop around the vendors and see what I could find and like have a little bit of a fun scavenger hunt going around and having something to actively look for when going around, and like that's fun. Like that's creating my own little game out of Gen Con.
Yeah, I think we've both done that multiple times. Like when I was putting together the battle box the first
right.
time,
and like digging through boxes for foils.
That is fun. But yeah, no, it was it was a good time, and I guess I want to talk a little bit about the panel stuff too because I went to a couple of those.
Yeah. So you went to the Joy
The
of
Joy of
Cubing.
Cubing panel. I asked a question of both my panels, so
Yeah.
I'm just
So the Joy of Cubing panel was actually hosted by one Cranny, Matt
he was
Cranstuber,
one of the hosts. Yes, he was.
former In Contention podcast, still current Joy of Cubing podcast host.
Whenever episodes go up,
Sure. But another Columbus native. And then it was Justin Parnell was
Yes.
the other lead, and then there were
Gavin Verhey and Mike Turian.
we're also in attendance as well. So cubing is definitely a huge part of our our Magic play group, I guess. To say that it's something I think that binds us all together. Still, we don't necessarily go around and play heavily into tournaments or anything like that as much as we used to, but we still get together for cube nights and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it's very important to us, and I think there's a lot of good takeaways from what I watched of the panel. But I know you were there, so I'll let you take over.
Oh yeah, and you can go back and watch the panels on Twitch, and I would encourage you to do so. They were really put together well. But yeah, the cube one was good. They went through and talked about sort of the how their cubes came together and how just their thoughts on a couple of different elements of cube design. And I think one of the more interesting answers they gave was about a question about balance, like how rigidly do you balance your cubes? And pretty much all the people who were moderating were like, that's one of the things you got to push against. Like, yeah, it's nice to have 70 of each color card, but sometimes your cube doesn't work that way, and you need to be able to play with that. Now, they weren't talking about extremes, but I think for a lot of people, when they look at their cultivated lists, and then someone goes, yeah, but maybe you should have like 67 green cards and 72, there are 72, 73 red cards. And they're like, no, I don't think you know how. And I think it's like, no, this is really organic with this. And it was cool. It was good to listen to. And then I went to the Tales of Dominaria.
Right.
Now, and that one had so Gavin Verhey was the moderator, and it had Melissa DeToro and it had Ethan Fleischer.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things that WotC has done was the Dominaria podcast, the MTG Weekly podcast they did for 5 weeks for Dominaria. Ethan Fleischer is the guy who drew the map for Dominaria. They talked about how once again how Dominaria is 2.5 times the size of Earth because it has to be, yet somehow gravity remains similar. And what was really cool is during that actual panel, I'm gonna forget the guy's name, but we were essentially interrupted by the guy who owns Gen-Con currently,
Peter Atkinson.
Atkinson, that's it. Who is also the guy that Richard Garfield pitched Magic to when he used to own Wizards of the Coast.
Right.
And he came in and told the story of how they shot down Robo Rally, and then 2 days later, Richard Garfield pitched the idea for Magic in a parking garage.
Nice.
And where Atkinson's response was so loud that another employee thought that he had hit Garfield with his car, which is just wonderful. Just a wonderful thing to think about. But so that was the middle of that one, and that was cool, and got to sort of talk about just some of the individual cards and some of the things they wanted to do. They talked a little bit about how that set was supposed to have 2 different story elements to it. So I guess the second part of that storyline was that Zalfir was going to return. They were going to help make Zalfir return.
Oh, wow.
So I am assuming that's a bit of a heads up for what a return to Dominaria again will look like, because that's Teferi's main goal.
Yeah.
So but they were going to do it. They were going to bring Zalfir back, and they were going to do a lot more referencing to they were going to do Knights Tribal and do a lot more references to the Knights that were in the sort of Zalfir Mirage style. So
wow.
I was and I'm listening to this, I'm like, that's really cool, and I didn't get it. Why? But I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, for sure.
So it was fun to listen to those, and then I got to actually interview Gavin Verhey about Brawl for a little while. So and I don't know if that's where we're going to drop this. I have the audio for that. I don't know where Morgan wants to segue into that and where we'll drop it into the cast.
It'll probably be in this feed, but sort of a separate thing.
Okay,
I'll
so that's what he
probably
wants to do.
have it up there just so people don't have to sit through that if they don't want to. Some people may not want to. So, but I'm glad, and thank you to Gavin for giving us your time for said interview. I'm glad that you got to kind of sit down with him and kind of talk it out a little bit, because I know that Brawl is definitely a passion you both share. So I'm sure it was very encouraging for him to talk to someone who's so deeply passionate about that format.
It certainly was, and and again, I can't say enough about him, because it really felt like the Gavin show this whole weekend, and he just I think I saw he released a video at the end of the con on Twitter of him like having no voice and just be like thanking all the Magic fans for coming out and everything. And I told him when I talked to him, I said like he said that um, for Dominaria during that panel that he was the quote unquote strong two, which meant that he was like second behind Mark Rosewater.
Yeah.
Which actually just means that whenever they discuss cards, he's got to type them into the file because like Mark Rosewater's not typing cards into the file. I type cards into the file. But he said that because of that, all of Richard Garfield's designs for Dominaria got emailed to him.
Oh.
And that they were all done in the style of like alpha and beta cards.
Nice.
So like 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 it would, instead of saying vigilance, it would still say like attacking does not cause this creature to tap or things like that. He's like so I have all these emails of these cards that I'm just going to keep forever because Richard Garfield sent me cards. But I told him that like it made sense to me that he was the strong two because he kind of reminds me a lot of Mark Rosewater. Like the passion is sort of contagious there. And as much as we get frustrated with WotC, I think on this cast sometimes, when you have people like that making your game, it makes it a lot easier to keep playing your game.
I think like when you look at our criticisms, I do think that most of the time they are criticisms of the sort of corporate face of WotC, and not necessarily the designers, the people making the game. And I think like I feel like you could be a little bit jaded by like the corporate side of WotC, the Hasbro-esque side of WotC. But when you see the developers and you see the people actually making this game and how passionate they are, it's hard to leverage that same criticism against them. And I think like
100%.
Obviously, I think you can look at similar situations in your own life of how like sometimes the decisions that maybe the place you work for you don't necessarily agree with, but you wouldn't hold it against your coworkers necessarily. Sure. So it's difficult to kind of have that separation for some people, for sure. And it's maybe sometimes our arguments aren't necessarily as nuanced as they should be, but I think like we definitely acknowledge the passion of the people that are designing the game.
Nuance. I think though when you look at it overall though, like, so we got to see these cards. I got some pictures of the oversized cards that were released. I know we got Gerard, for example, this weekend, and that art. Morgan, I know you bought the playmat for it. It's absolutely gorgeous.
They had a Gen Con like special edition playmat for it, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to snap that up because it's just like I treat that as a souvenir for my trip. So like that's an easy buy for me most of the time, and they're really nice. They have the stitched edging, and it just looks great.
I like the stitch edging with like the art color still on it. I know it's just like black edging, so it's but like that piece of art, like I know some people were maybe a little disappointed in the Gerard card. I think like it's definitely very unique, but man, there's just like for me as a big fan of the game and a fan of the lore, and like sitting at a Dominaria panel and then like seeing this art for Gerard with all the Weatherlight crew behind him, and then just like, man, this is cool. This is nice. And then after that, this week we got a new Volrath who's awesome. Yeah, just some cool things with that. But it felt like every time we were in the Magic area, I would see, Gavin or Melissa or said Ethan, or he's out just talking to people, like anybody who wanted to talk to him. And you had the EDH rules committee.
Yeah,
together they said for the first time in years.
Yeah,
and they were playing games of Commander with people, talking to them. It felt just very just like I don't know. I don't know what the right word is when I say it felt very wholesome. Is that it? Just was like this is no cynicism. There's a lot of people just getting together and sharing a love for this game. And that's nice.
It felt you definitely felt more connected to the people who are making the game. And I think like when all we get are our press releases and prepared statements and things like that, and
nothing,
or absolutely nothing, you tend to get frustrated. But like there wasn't, this was a long weekend without any sort of Magic, WotC centered like controversy or drama.
Yeah, sure.
You didn't have to get all swept up in something negative happening with the game. You just got to see the excited people making the game that you are also very excited about. And I think like Gen Con and WotC's presence there is always very good at doing that, of allowing you to sort of feel a transparency with that. I guess the only like gray cloud overhead was definitely everything going on with Judge Academy, and that thing is still kind of nebulous, and in all honesty, I don't even feel like talking about it unless some huge announcement comes out about it, or until October when things kind of shift over to that and seeing how that actually flies. Because I think there's too much not really certain about it.
Yeah, so we talked about our thoughts on a little bit last week. I do want to say there was a presentation
Yes.
about that, and I'm trying to remember who was the person who was leading that. Do you have
Tim Shields.
Tim Shields.
Tim Shields, owner of Cascade Games, and Judge Academy.
Well, they released the video of that. I don't know if it was posted on Twitch or not, but if you search for it, you can find that presentation. And I know a friend of ours, Justin, who was on the cast technically in the car last week, he went to that and he said answered some things, made some things maybe a little more frustrating. I do want to mention one of the most interesting things from that, if you don't go and look for that, was the talking about why it's going to be for profit versus not for profit, which was really interesting. Like I said, essentially that like by making it not for profit, then they won't be taking money from not for profit organizations that are doing good, if that makes sense. Not that the Judge Academy can't be good, but like essentially as corporations make those donations, those come off a certain amount of dollars. So they're doing that pre-profit amount, and they'll just get lumped in with like the Red Cross and everything else. So I think some people saw that, like I think that was in the Reddit. They saw that like sort of soundbite, and they were like, oh, whatever. But it's like, no, quite literally, like by being for profit, they can avoid taking money from causes that are a little more noble. So I thought it was it was a good answer. So, but yeah, go look that up if you are interested in some more feedback directly from the person who sort of is running the academy.
Yeah, and it'll be an interesting thing to see where that whole thing goes. To be perfectly honest, so
yeah, based on Magic's history with academies, time travel goes back to the past, but also to the future, and then slows down in between,
I guess, or gets blown up.
Yes, attacked by Phyrexians. That would be unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. If you've listened to Vorthos Cast, shout out to Vorthos Cast, Baron blows it up.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But like, they're sleeper agents. Like they're there.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
So, but Carrick actually, is there in that slow time bubble. So
that's true. If you're not listening to the Vorthos Cast, by the way, it's actually very flavorful with something things they're doing with. The commander cards, because we've obviously seen like a revisiting of those characters a little bit. Also, you find out that story, most of the characters are pretty bad.
Yeah, it's literally hate on Urza month. So
yeah, that's true.
Suck it, Urza. That was the actual fourth part of that block. Urza Saga, Urza's Legacy, Urza's Destiny, Urza Suck It.
Urza Suck It. But yeah, go if you are like me and not really like 100% familiar with that storyline, listen to it's a 3-part series, and it gets something pretty quickly.
To go even more specific, I know we are essentially a fan cast of them at this point. We just stand it real hard. But all of the commander cards have been tweeted out that are a character that already existed. Jay and Ellie of that podcast on Twitter has been like sort of telling a micro story with it, and including some like art from other cards to show moments. And those are even for me who like likes the lore. There are times where like I look at a card and I'm like, oh. Like I didn't know. I didn't know this card was actively depicting this specific moment, and I think that's pretty cool. So if you like those little blurbs, he's doing a great job with those. For
sure. Much love to the Vorthos Cast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anything else Magic related that you want to talk about?
Anything else Magic related that I want to talk about? See, I repeat your questions slowly so I can buy myself more time to make sure I didn't forget anything. BCW supplies.
Oh yeah, so like BCW Supplies, former sponsor of At Your End Step, they had a nice little get together the Wednesday evening, and so got to talk a little bit of this and that with them. So I just wanted to give a quick thank you to them, and their booth was really nice. They had a limited edition deck box with Gen-Con on it this year, so if you went to Gen-Con, I hope you got one and picked it up. I know they still had like a little bit left that they were selling through their website, so they might still have some by the time this goes up.
They're sharp.
But they looks really cool. But we just wanted to give a quick shout out to them. Was there anything else you wanted to say about?
We just got to try out the new the elite.
Yeah. So yeah, we did.
We both shuffled those up, and they I'll tell you, sleeving felt interesting with them because their thickness ratio is different from the front and the back. But they shuffled real nice.
They did actually. I'd have to say, like, I've been using katanas for a little bit, and I think the shuffle feel of the Elite Twos were nicer overall.
Oh, wow, that is high praise.
Well, and so like I had a weird experience with my katanas, and like I people really
Stab
like
yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
My finger.
So the katanas that I bought and sleeved had a weird manufacturing error. They had a line across, like, not
I remember this.
If you lined up all the cards, you could see a definite line across like the sides of the cards, and it wasn't anything like I showed it to a judge. I was like, "Hey, judge, is this going to affect anything?" Because I was playing a competitive REL tournament. He's like, "No, it's a uniform. I can clearly see it's uniform, so you wouldn't get pointed at for like marked cards or anything like that." But it's just like unsettling. Maybe unsettling is like too like
it's tough because like it's only one out of how many, but it certainly leaves a presence. I just I don't know. I like a lot of sleeves. Like we've tried out a lot of sleeves, but I've been impressed with how they keep trying to better these sleeves and how they stay pretty affordable. And I know it sounds like we're shilling now, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
They're
I mean, these are honest opinions. The party did have a product that was available to obtain, so that's how we got them. So they were supplied by BCW Supplies, just to be completely transparent. But
they weren't clear. Well, some of them were clear sleeves, so those were completely transparent.
But they're supplying other product that doesn't, and they're associated with the show. In honesty, doesn't,
and Comic Con, to be quite honest.
It doesn't affect our opinion of the products. Like we wouldn't tell you, we wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't something that we felt. So.
That is true. Like Moore and I were both sort of tentative, like, we're going to try these, and I really enjoyed them. So
yeah, I did too. To be perfectly honest, I haven't played a lot of sleeves. Also, that I guess to mention like one last thing about Gen Con, there are a ton of sleeves, and like unique sleeves and sleeves that you wouldn't like. I know that Dragon Shield has a lot of different kind of art sleeves, and obviously some of them are like they're mixture of like classic artworks and like fantasy, but they have like Cowboy Bebop like sleeves and like Mega Man sleeves and stuff like that. So if you want to get some of those like unique sleeves that you just don't see everywhere else, Gen Con is going to have them. So
except for Katana, I was actually looking for those for a friend.
People do really like Katana sleeves. No joke.
Could not buy them.
Yeah.
So
yeah. This is probably we're going to stop talking about Magic and talking about the other things that we experienced and did at Gen Con. So if you don't care about that, thank you for listening to the show.
Those other things include like games we tried out.
100%, 100%. We're not going to talk about just like whatever.
Yeah, no, we're just going to be like, and then we ate another waffle for dinner, because I did do that, like I said. But no, like we some stuff we tried out, and things that might appeal to a broader gamer. Right. But yes, it won't be Magic focused.
Correct. So let's see. Thursday was pretty Magic filled. Friday. Friday's just one of those days it's hard to remember.
It's so like Thursday, well, I don't know. Friday, well, maybe. I've got a list of some stuff, and if you want to. So first game I want to talk about that we tried out was Clask.
Yeah.
And actually, this is where we're going to announce that we're becoming a competitive Clask podcast.
Yeah. If you did stop listening to the show and you missed this announcement, it's going to be real awkward.
Yeah, next week.
When we're next week, we we changed the sort of the feed, and it's going to be Podclask, the Clask podcast. Yeah,
and we adopt Northern European accents. So it's going to be.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to commit to that bit that hard, but. Clask is I've been trying to explain it to people, and I usually just end up having to show them a video of the game. Think of soccer or football if you're from a nation that refers to it as that, which obviously when you look at the game makes sense. It kind of reminds me of that, but on a tabletop, basically. Think of like heads-up soccer. Involving something that you control with a magnet underneath the board. Go to Clask, just Google Clask and find some videos of it. That'll probably be able to help you visualize it a little bit better. All you need to know is that it's very addictive, and all you want to do after you have played it is continue to play it.
Morgan and I went and hid in the press room for a little while because they had a copy set up where no one else was trying to fight us for a chance to play it.
Correct.
And we did that for well over an hour.
Yeah. We played it on the floor and then played it in the press room for a good long time before we decided that we had to leave and go grab dinner. But it was a lot of fun. It's one of those games that kind of just is easy to understand how to play, and it makes you want to get better at it.
It really does. They had some videos of like professionals playing this, doing some things where it's like
It's wild.
My hands don't move like that.
Yeah, it's just. But unfortunately, by the time that it was sold out. This was Friday.
Yeah, it was Friday.
It was sold out by Friday. So we'll they are going to be stocking it, I believe, in Target at some point in time, if not already. So we'll definitely have to track it down and purchase it because it's just that good.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
So Classic was great. I know that I checked out just like a bunch of other like games and stuff like that. Usually I try to find like smaller, sort of simpler, easier games to play because I know typically that's what really gets picked up by like the play group, like the people that I actually play games with. Larger, complicated games just aren't really our cup of tea.
Yeah, they die in Dave's closet.
Right? Yeah, we're looking at you, Lords of Waterdeep. Like it. I just don't want to. I just get. I don't know. Maybe I just have a short attention span. But they are a lot. Now that doesn't mean I'm not tempted by them. There was definitely a Resident Evil 2 board game. I think it was Steamforged Games that is the maker of it. And Resident Evil 2 is probably my favorite game. Both the original one on the PS1 and the remake is fantastic as well. And I was very tempted. Now, this game is $100 just for the base game. Now, they had a special deal where you could buy like everything that I think they even released for the game for $250. That was very tempting. I was heavily considering just doing that and being like, well, this is my big purchase for the con. Like, I just bought this game that I'm probably never going to play. And that's that. But I didn't. I was reserved. I decided not to do that because I want my wife to still love me, and that would have been very trying for her to continue to do so. But if we got fans out there that are just like, hey, Morgan needs Resident Evil 2 by Steamforged Games. Like, hey, I'm not going to say no. But don't do that. Please don't do that. Never do that.
I didn't try the game, but I did take a look at it, and it
looks cool.
I mean, it looked good.
It looks cool. I think it has similar functions to. So here's why I know that I think it could have a chance though, because there were Let's Plays of it on YouTube and like how to play it, and they were only like 15 minutes long.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch a Let's Play of it, and if it's something that literally only takes 15 minutes to kind of display how you play it, then there's some hope. Because we like House on the Haunted Hill or
House on the Hill.
Or that like those are great games. I think it has similar mechanics to that. Maybe
like building the map as you walk and discover things. Yeah.
I think I'm not sure. I haven't watched the Let's Play. Again, I didn't want to get too like heavily invested in it because I didn't want it to break my heart further when I had to say no.
Yeah, you had to say no. That's fair. Well, we'll wait your book report.
Oh yeah. I'll report back. But that looks really cool. And that was a kind of I think Steamforged Games actually does a lot of like video game to board game translations because they do like a Dark Souls as well. Yeah. They made that. So I didn't buy that, unfortunately. I know that I can't remember anything else specifically that I just checked out and didn't like play test or play. And most of that was actually on Saturday. But I know that one of the big things you did was played a lot of Harry Potter.
I did play Harry Potter at TCG. I once again played in the World Championships.
Yeah.
And I also cubed for the first time with that group. If you check out our Twitter, I did tweet out some stuff about it, and also did a pack one pick one for a pack of the base set of Harry Potter released in 2001.
That was his name's the person Stefan. So thank you so much for your contributions to our Twitter.
Here's the thing. He pours his heart and soul into what he does there. We have pins and stickers, and I wore my T-shirt from the last year.
Yeah.
We got playmats, which are just gorgeous.
Yeah, they're really cool.
He makes custom trophies, which I tweeted out a couple of pictures of. Like it is a big event, and we had 16 people for the World Championship, and I went 2-2, so that was good. that deck's again. If you like Vintage and Legacy,
You should
you
play the
should
Harry
just play
Potter
this
game.
game. My round one opponent like went from doing nothing to. I mean, your life totals is your resource in this game, as I've talked about in
Yeah,
Fast.
it's your library.
Right.
Yeah,
So sorry, I just said your life total is your resource.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
library is your life total. So like my opponent in round one made me draw 45 cards in a turn, both games.
Oh,
So
what's the deck size?
you have
60?
to play 60.
Yeah.
There's no leeway like there is in Magic because it is a life total. So you can't just like battle with
Yeah,
your opponents
yeah.
out. So yeah, by that point in the game, that was more than the life total. But it did pretty good in the other matches. Had a really close one where me and my opponent both apparently didn't know how a card worked, and I wish I did because probably would have won that match. But a full-on prison deck won the tournament. I mean,
Yeah.
so even the deck I played was really interesting because like you get 2 actions per turn. Like that's how the game is defined, and the deck was all about abusing a starting character that gives you an extra action if you play items. And one of the biggest items you can play are increments of money, and money gives you more actions. So you're just setting it up so you can take 5 or 6 actions a turn. So you're just like essentially cheating at how much you can do a turn, which was
Right. And like so your actions can even like sometimes really like equal getting additional turns basically.
yeah,
So
100%.
you're basically like you're the time walk deck.
Yeah, it was a
Kinda,
sidewalk
sorta.
deck. Yeah, so I mean, like even what I was doing, and that was a deck I borrowed. It was very fun. So that's a Draco deck. So again, fun game. There's deck lists out for all this stuff. He tracks all those, and then I cubed, which he has a cube list up on Saturday. And the casual 306 of the cube. So I feel pretty good because I've not done super well in the World Championships because here's the thing. I don't take the time to study the game during the off season, and then I'm like, I'm going to play in this World Championship, but I haven't studied the game in the off season, as I said, but I want to do better. But in Cube, the combo elements of that game, just like in Magic, can get diffused a little bit, and I went very creature heavy, and
Yeah.
it was great.
You basically drafted mono red. And
I
got
did do
rewarded.
that. Yes, I drafted mono red. That was good.
And what this does to me every year is Mike does this, and I look at the game, and I'm a big Harry. Me and my wife are both big Harry Potter fans. I proposed to my wife in the magical world of Harry Potter at Universal Studios in Florida. So like, it's a thing.
Specifically in Ilops Al Emporium.
Correct, which doesn't exist anymore, and it's very upsetting.
Yeah, that's sad.
It's a big deal for us to some degree. So I see this, I go, I want to do this. So this makes me do searches on eBay for Harry Potter cards, and I do this for about 2 weeks, decide never to buy a card, and forget about it until next year. And that's been the going cycle, at least for this year and last year.
What I will say about it, and looking at it, one of my favorite things about the game is that it is entirely original art.
Yes.
This is really pre-movies, and like all the licensed material now all uses
movie
pictures.
imagery, because that's what people know.
And it's awful. It really is just awful because
It's disappointing for sure.
It takes away a lot of the. It's just like if you look at the Game of Thrones card game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's been out for a long, long time. If that game switched suddenly to only like show imagery,
Right.
that would be very frustrating because it kind of makes the world feel smaller.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's great. And again, I technically haven't seen every Harry Potter card that exists because again, I have not looked strongly for this. So like I was queuing, there was a card called Endless Sandwiches, which is like Harry and Ron making sandwiches with magic. I was like, this is my favorite moment ever.
This is exactly my jam.
Like if I got like wizard powers, I'm just making endless sandwiches.
Yeah, you get to that class in Hogwarts. Hopefully, it's one of your last years because you're leaving after that.
Exactly. And I'll need to float because of all these sandwiches I've eaten. So. But yeah, it's always a good time, and again, like Gen Con is a place where these smaller games. I know some of the people there who play Harry Potter they're also super passionate about the WoW TCG.
Yeah,
and I don't mean Hearthstone.
No.
I mean the WoW TCG.
Correct.
And there's a tournament for that too, that game's been dead a long time too. So
yeah,
it's nice to just be able to again find those people who are passionate and who do those things.
Right.
So.
Also note that game was designed by Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards of the Coast. So was it Elaine Chase was the one who was there last year, or
I can't remember.
But one of the WotC employees
though.
was last year. Like that was like kind of their baby. So we're like, oh look, still doing it.
Yeah.
And like I go and try and find signatures for Battle Box. Like Stefan goes around and like gets all of his cards for Harry Potter signed because there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
So that's good.
But it's very cool. I'm still gonna keep up those eBay searches. There are lots for like 200, 300. I saw one today for 500 cards for like $20.
There you go.
So like,
Get started.
you just never know what you're gonna get though.
Yeah, thanks, Forrest.
Yeah.
I need to buy at least one box of Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, those are hard to find.
They are hard to find because that was the last set released. But
Yeah.
I have a cube as well that I've tried to keep updated, but I really need cards from that set. So I'd like to buy one box of that so I can, because like we've cubed it before, and it's really a fun format to cube. So once I'm done moving, I'll probably try to update all that.
Yeah.
So talk about a couple other games I tried and bought.
Yeah.
What's with the Blockbuster game?
Yeah, Blockbuster game. So this was like a really cool thing that that was at the vendor hall. Was someone set up a booth?
It's a Big Potato Games. Big Potato
Games. And they have a game that's called Blockbuster, and it's just the Blockbuster like logo and like imagery.
It's like a plastic Blockbuster box, and the board looks like a VHS. Trust me, I know that part of me buying that game was definitely me looking at that and being like, "Well, I have to buy this because it looks great."
Exactly.
But their little booth looked like a Blockbuster store. They had VHS tapes next to the games.
Yep.
They also had $80 candy.
They did,
which was choice.
And when we bought the game, I asked them if anyone had bought any candy. They said no. They said that most people said it was too expensive, and I was like, "Oh, that's too bad." But I was like, "That's how you make your money. You don't make your money on rentals. You make your money on concessions."
Yeah, it's 100% how it works. But it's a very quick sort of back and forth party game, just based on like movie trivia and like doing some charades and things like that. And it plays very quickly and very fun, and
it's easy to explain to people. Like people get the concept.
They sold out of that game too. There was a lot of vendors who did pretty well this year. So
for sure.
But I was glad I got my copy because like the next day, like we're sold out. I was like, haha, I have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta tell you, like if you have ever gone to a con of any kind, and you know like some booths were just like, man, maybe I'd look at that if like it wasn't just like a cardboard, like a card table, like whatever. Man, I walked by this booth and I literally looked at Morgan. And I said, I have to stop here. I have to. I need to look at this. So they done got me.
Yeah, I mean it was effective, and like the game is fun.
Yeah.
It's like I said, easy to explain to people. Is perfect for like parties, especially like if you have a bunch of people that you know that like to play like the Jackbox games. Like this is the perfect game for that kind of group because it feels like that. It feels like it's aping off of obviously your nostalgia for Blockbuster, but you know it's part. Like we said, charades. It's part trivia. It's a lot of different things, and I think like that's what makes it like so intriguing to want to buy and play.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Definitely check it out. And that was what Big Potato Games.
Big Potato Games.
Big Potato Games. Blockbuster. Probably just look for Blockbuster game.
Yeah, the Blockbuster game definitely works.
Yeah.
Tried out Silver Amulet. It was a game that we tested on Saturday.
Yeah.
And ended up really liking that game and bought it. My wife and I have already played it a bunch.
Yeah, actually. she dig it too.
She likes it. I was specifically trying to find some games that her and I could play one-on-one, but also could play well. You know, like Morgan and I tend to look for the same kind of games that are smaller, that can play quickly. But I wanted some stuff I could play one-on-one with her, especially since she didn't come to Gen Con this year. And it's a game that plays a lot like golf. If you ever played the game Golf, which is a deck of cards, whereas you're trying to eliminate your higher value cards to leave yourself with the lowest hand possible. But there's also a memory element of it too. Your hand is dealt face down, and you can only look at cards when it tells you to look at cards.
Right.
So you have to like remember where things are, transfer where things are. It's fun. And head to head, it's really tough because you can just get blown out quickly. I gotta tell you.
I bet.
But really, just like a pretty fast paced game, and I'm really enjoying it. And I guess that released at Origins, so it's pretty new.
And that's I know they start with the B. It's like Brazier, not Brazier.
It's big ball games.
Excuse me. But they're a pretty well known game company. They are the people that do like Werewolf. Like the one night werewolf.
Yeah, this is werewolf themed as well. It's Bezier.
There we go.
Yeah, Bezier, not Brazier.
Well, close.
No, actually, I'm not gonna support you on that one.
You're not gonna give me that one. All right. Well, fair enough. So the game was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot because I won the only round that we played. So I'm a big fan.
So yeah, but again, really fun, fast paced, and I think it goes up to 4 or 5 players.
And not as complicated as you think.
Yes.
Like a lot of the cards tell you what they do and how they work, and you even have like little like cards that show you what you can do every turn. So
yeah,
pretty easy to
after
pick up.
After a hand or two, you just like Now then you start trying to figure out the
Mm-hmm.
the nuance, but the gameplay itself makes a ton of sense.
Right.
I'll go quickly through a few. I played Detective Club, which was a release
Mm-hmm.
at Gen Con, which was pretty cool. You play in a large group, and then you have these. The art style of the game was really cool. You had all these crazy cards that had very surreal like pictures on them that had a lot of elements. One person decides on a clue, like they're gonna play cards that all have the color blue in them, and they write that word on all of these pamphlets of paper except for one. They also can do this through an app, which would streamline the process. But essentially, you pass all those out, and then one person doesn't get the clue, and they have to watch everyone flip over their cards, and they have to try and mimic it to see if they can do it. And then you get a round after the word is revealed to argue why you played your cards, and you have to vote for who didn't know the clue. And it was a lot of fun, just like as a group trying to be like, well, that seems ridiculous, or what's this, or how well did you convince it? Like the first time like we played around, I was the one who didn't get a clue, and the clue was space, but I saw a bunch of like circular objects on the first card, so I played two things that had nothing to do with space, but definitely had a bunch of circular objects. And then they were like, so why did you play these? And I'm like, well, I had no space cards in my hand, so I just tried to go for planets. So these were planets, and no one voted for me. No one. No, I was like, yes,
Amazing.
So definitely a fun game. I didn't get to play with the apps, so it's a little tedious with the 7 or 8 notebooks where you have to literally write the word on each one of these notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
So with an app would be better.
Yeah, it just lets paper and waste in general too.
Right. But the game was a lot of fun. So did not end up picking that one up. It was a little pricier than I wanted for it, but it is one I have pegged for the future. And I last one I guess I'll talk about is I bought a game called Campy Creatures. Now I bought this game while I was dressed as Duck Newton, so it felt super flavorful. And I definitely bought the game because of the art style. But essentially, if you ever played Boss Monster, it plays sort of similar to that.
Yeah.
You have different monster cards in your hand, and I know Morgan, you haven't gotten to play this one yet.
No.
But we did play it, and it is pretty neat. You have monsters in your hand that go from like 0 to 8, and each player has that same hand, and then there's humans you're trying to capture, and you are trying to essentially you are trying to determine the order in which you're going to capture them. The nice thing I like about the game is that it has a very distinct priority system. So like it tells you whose ability is going to go off first and who's going to capture first.
Gotcha.
It's very clear, which is something with Boss Monster. I love that game, but as Magic players, like trying to figure out like, well, okay, I can play this card in this phase, but like, do I have priority? Like, can I do this? Like here, the game's like, nope, this happens and this. It resolves in this order, and it has
Nice.
a pretty interesting tiebreaker on it. But the art is just great. Like the monsters are like classic movie monsters.
Yeah, it's like the throwback, classic Universal Monsters-esque imagery.
Yes, 100. And like the tokens are even cool with it, and you're set up for your deck. So it's very cool. And like you have your highest card is like the Kaiju, and it has no powers. It just is the highest card.
Yeah.
But your lowest card is like a 0, which is the Blob. But when you play it, you get first priority to discard another card to give it a number. So you can really play the game in a couple different. We played a full hand of it. I was like, okay, like that was cool. So it was fun. I felt I took a bunch of the money that I was going to spend on like playing a lot of Magic events and switched gears and decided to just like try a bunch of stuff and get some games, and I really enjoyed all of them I got.
That's awesome. I didn't really buy any games because if I'm going to play games, it's probably going to be with Mike and our friends. So I really didn't see the point in it. So.
Yeah, you literally, I think when I said like I'm going to buy this game so I can play it with Katie, and then you were like, no, let me buy it so that you don't buy all the games, and I'm like, but I want to play it with my wife, and he was like, oh yeah. So because like otherwise we try to balance it out so like one person has it, another person doesn't have to, but
right.
But that's really become one of my favorite things, and like we've been lucky enough to have access with the podcast and some of the writing I've done to use some of the press materials for that, and getting a chance to go and like talk to people who've made their game, who like are excited and passionate about these things. Like it is a cool thing. We're no industry insiders or anything.
Definitely not.
But we want to use what we have to push the things that we've enjoyed because those people are so passionate about it. So
100%.
There's that. You may or may not be like Kevin Smith fans, but one of the things I always liked about him is he's just like, make your thing. Go make it. Make the thing. He's like, yeah, I made a bunch of bad movies, but I made them. Like, go make them. And I think like part of that is here. Like, I like the idea of like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to these people, and they made a game, and like, tell me about it. Tell me why you're so excited about this. I worked for the Brotherwise booths the last few years. I didn't this year, which was kind of sad. And they did have an Unearth expansion, which I didn't get to try. But like talking to like, and I've always worked with one of the brothers of Brotherwise. Like that guy like he loves what he's doing. He likes talking to people. Like he would just sit there while you're like demoing games and just like interact with people. Like, hey, like tell me what you like about this. What can we do this? And it's just like I think like it's a cool industry where it's just like these people are like, hey, I'm going to make this game.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make it so you can enjoy it. Tell me what this, tell me why. And it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, no one wants to make a bad game.
Well, have you seen EA?
I don't.
It's barely in the game.
You know what? I don't think. I think people make bad games. I don't think that's what they want to do.
Yeah, sure,
necessarily. So, like, obviously, it's good to be like right front and center with the people that are making these games a lot of the time. Like, there are some bigger like mega booths with some bigger, large names in gaming.
Mega booth.
That maybe you don't get to have that face-to-face interaction with the developer, but a lot of the people that are there are making the game.
Yeah.
And really let you kind of have a discussion and actually talk with them about the game that they're demoing with you. And I think like having that face-to-face interaction means a lot.
Yeah, and I think even comparing to something like I made the EA joke, but like the video game industry kind of suffers from this at times. We've seen all the reports of like developers who, they're doing horrible things to their staffs and their teams, but they still are successful because like that's sort of anonymous. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, it was a big team of developers. It's like, yeah, but here, like, you can, I don't know, you can see that a little more personally, and you can, even compare those personal touches to those sort of corporate entities. I'll say last year one of the biggest entities at Gen Con was Blizzard. Activision.
Yeah,
they were not here this year, gone entirely.
They definitely had a huge presence, and it seems like that they did not want to make that same investment this year, which is kind of interesting.
It was certainly interesting, but didn't feel like a loss to me. Now, great that I was over there like trying to jam Hearthstone.
I'm not a Hearthstone like aficionado or fan necessarily, so it's not something that I missed, and maybe there were people there that did want to have that presence, and I feel for those people, but maybe last year just they didn't get the kind of response they wanted.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, but overall, just a fun con, and I've really enjoyed these last few years, just seeing what Gen Con's become. I went a bunch when I was in high school, so it was like 2005, 2006, 2007, and then had that few year gap, and then have gone back, especially with you and your wife a number of times, and like just seeing how much it's grown, how much it's changed, and how great everything is just awesome. So, I had a great time. So this is the first time I've cosplayed. I had a really good time doing that, and there's seeing other people who were dressed in characters from similar things was really cool. And I didn't partake in like the character like walk or anything like that because I was wearing hiking boots essentially for the costume, and Morgan and I were like, I could go walk in this, or we could go eat and sit down for 2 hours, and we did that.
Yeah, sitting down for 2 hours was just great.
But just like I don't know, there's every year I go, I think I find a new way to have some fun with it. Former host of the show, Jordan, he was there with his wife, and they True Dungeoned for the first time, which is something we've not done, but they loved it. And True Dungeon is literally like live action D&D, like you are going in and solving these things and doing like, and I know some people go just for that. So I think like I don't know, there's always something to enjoy. If you have a chance, you're anywhere in the Midwest, and even if you're not, find a way to go. Find a way to get out there and see it.
I know that they also played a Harry Potter like tabletop RPG,
and I want to do that.
I want to do that too, and I hope that's something they do next year because like, dang, I want to do that so bad.
Really cool.
I still have to touch base with him to see how he actually enjoyed that. So, but yeah, I think like. I want to continue to go for as long as I feasibly can, as long as life will allow me the freedom to do so.
Morgan Gen Con finds a way.
Yeah, I know it does. I almost did go last year and found a way, so I fully understand that. But it's a great time. I would encourage you to try and attend if you haven't been able to. It's something where think of some things that you can do. If maybe paying for a badge really isn't like it's expensive. I get that. There are plenty of ways that you can take some time potentially if you have it to just see if you can start writing for somewhere. I know that Mike actually has written, continues to write for Legit MTG, and allows you to kind of go there with press credentials and cover the show, and turn something that you want to do, turn gaming into a passion, and be able to find ways to express that passion and be able to see more of it. Don't just write just to go to Gen Con. I'm not saying condoning that.
No, but or go work for a company.
Yeah, for sure. There's plenty of opportunities like that. People need people to work the booths and demo games and talk about them. And so if you want to produce content, do that, and know that this is something that you can do. That's part of that. If you want to go and make some cash and go to Gen Con, like this working for I know that Cool Stuff Inc. frequently needs people to assist with their booth. I know that like Mike said, he worked with Brotherwise Games, and there are lots of other people that need people to help them with their games.
And quite honestly, if we talk to Judge Academy, you look at Judge Academy going forward, Pastimes working for them is a way to get on there.
Yeah, for sure.
And Keyforge had a huge presence there, and that's one of the places that
one of the games
serve. So there's ways to try and figure it out and make it make it light on the wall.
Just don't think that you have to, because I know that
because I'm poor and I go.
Don't think that this is some huge expensive thing that you have to do. You can go to Gen Con and have a very inexpensive trip. Lodging is still going to be like a tough thing to really analyze, and unfortunately I don't have a way to make that cheaper. If I did, I would definitely make it cheaper for myself to stay reasonably close to the downtown area, but know that there are plenty of other avenues that you can pursue if Gen Con is something that you want to do to get there. And it definitely takes some out of the box thinking, but figure it out and go. That is the best suggestion that I can give to you. Just it's worth it to experience it if gaming is something that you really enjoy doing. So, but yeah, so another Gen Con in the books. Can't wait till next year, where hopefully we will report back with what happened to us then. But as far as what's happening over the weekend, I do know that our lovely sponsor, Comic Town, is going to be having a 1K IQ. So it's going to be a modern IQ on August 10th. It kicks off at 12 p.m. So player registration will likely be at 11. So get there to register your modern deck. It'll be $35 for the event, and it will pay out to top 8. So yeah, be sure to check that out. And again, you can find out more information about this and other upcoming events at worldofcomictown.com. Is there? And I'm unsure if there is actually a Star City Games tournament there this weekend. I think it might be Richmond that's this weekend. Yes, not this weekend, but next weekend.
The 17th, the 18th.
Yeah,
Team Constructed.
So that's when the next Star City Games tournament is happening, and if there is a GP over the weekend, I have forgotten it, and I do not know. But that's going to be everything for the show this week. Again, we are going to have that interview with Gavin Bearhair that's also going to be loaded into our feed, so be sure to listen to that when it comes out. If you are listening to us, you can reach out to us via various methods. We have a Twitter, it's YourEndStep, and when you add us, it's at YourEndStep. We have an email address, atyourendstep@gmail.com, and then Facebook, facebook.com/@YourEndStep. If you're listening to us via a podcast application that lets you leave a review, we would appreciate it. We think that we're a 5-star podcast, most of the time at the very least. I want to give another big shout out to, of course, Legit MTG for helping host the show, and MTG Cast, who is another one of our hosts. So definitely appreciate the show going up on those two avenues, and the listeners that allows us to reach. Another, of course, shout out to Comic Town for being a lovely sponsor of the show. worldofcomictown.com is their web address. And then, last but certainly not least, our patrons. So thank you so much to all of our patrons out there that contribute to the show. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/atyourendstep. But that's going to be everything for us this week, and we will catch you next time. You have a great one.